Hey, what's ready? Welcome back to News Dose. And has live service games become a problem for the game industry? Well, some new data released today, and at first glance, it doesn't seem to be necessarily great for AAA games, but we'll dive a little bit deeper into that today. Now, we also got an update for the Switch 2 as Nintendo propels into the future with a lot, and I mean a lot, of cash in hand. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with Little Nightmares 3. It will be out here in just a few days, but reviews are currently rolling out, and I do think that they're very important this time. I mean, fans absolutely adore Little Nightmares 1 and 2, but the big question mark for the third entry is that it comes from a completely different studio, being Supermassive Games. Now, they've made some good horror games in the past, such as Until Dawn, but that's still a very different type of game than what Tarsier Studios has created in the Little Nightmares series. So, they do have to kind of prove themselves worthy, and unfortunately, or at least according to critics, it hasn't completely lived up to the previous two games. It currently has a 73 overall score on Metacritic, and while some reviewers praised it for being a familiar and atmospheric experience, it's also being criticized for not necessarily doing enough to stand out on its own. In other words, it's a solid sequel, but it still lacks some of the magic that the other two games have. And that kind of reminds me of what happened to Little Big Planet 3. Much like Little Nightmares 3, it was handled by a different studio, and while yes, it was still a solid game, it just didn't reach the same peak as the previous games did. And I think that's what critics are currently describing for Little Nightmares 3. However, if you are interested, it will be out on October 10th. Now, here's something that might throw you for a loop, and I know it did for me, because Shadow the Hedgehog suddenly got a trademark by Sega. Now, to be completely fair here, trademarks don't always result in a brand new game, and, that's worth keeping in mind. But for those that don't know, Shadow the Hedgehog is an old game that released during the PS2 era, and it was a very bizarre game at that. I mean, you play as Shadow with a gun, and from what I can remember, it plays every bit as weird as it sounds. Honestly, I don't remember it being a very good game at all. Quite the contrary, really. So the idea that they would possibly remaster it or remake it, that seems a bit outlandish in my opinion. I would be shocked if they were to do something like that. So my guess is that this is either simply just a trademark update, or that it's for a movie or some kind of series similar to what they did with Knuckles a year or two back. I mean, we'll see what happens with all this, though. Shadow's popularity is definitely on the rise right now with last year's Sonic X Shadow, and of course, Sonic 3, the movie. Now, if you're still subscribed to Game Pass, though, the month of October is actually pretty good. They just dropped their first wave of games, which includes Ninja Gaiden 4, Keeper, Bell and Pit, Supermarket Simulator, PAX Day, The Casting of Frank Stone, The Grinch Christmas Adventures, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Evil West, Ninja Gaiden Black, He Is Coming, and then lastly, Eternal Strands. And obviously, the two big inclusions here are the day one first-party titles, being Ninja Gaiden 4 and Keeper. Now, Keeper is definitely, I'd say, a very unique title. It is a Double Fine game after all, and that's kind of what they do. They make quirky, unique experiences, and I guess for the next game, they're going to have us play as a lighthouse. I mean, I have no idea how they come up with this type of stuff, but I do like them as a studio. Psychonauts is among my favorite games ever, so, I hope this turns out to be another good game by Double Fine. It will be available on October 17th if you want to check it out. And then just a few days later, on October 21st, Ninja Gaiden 4 will be out. And this is a game that fans have been begging for a very, very long time. I mean, Ninja Gaiden 3 released way back in 2012, so, it's kind of crazy that we went 13 years without really a mainstream Ninja Gaiden title. And then here we are in 2025 with 3 different big Ninja Gaiden games. That's kind of cool to think about, but that's only if Ninja Gaiden 4 actually lives up to its expectations. I mean, I guess we're not going to have to wait much longer, but overall, I'd say this is really a strong month for Xbox Game Pass, and really, I'd say that even under the new $30 price tag. I mean, I probably won't be able to say that every single month like I used to be able to, but Ninja Gaiden 4 alone will save you money if you only subscribe for a single month. All right, now let's go and get to the big story of the day, and this is actually really crazy because I think it kind of highlights some of the problems that the AAA game industry is currently facing. Circana's Matt Piscatello revealed some data for the United States, and apparently 63% of United States gamers only buy 1 to 2 games a year, while 36% buy 4 or more games a year. So this is actually a loaded data point because it tells us a lot about customer behavior and where a lot of gamers are prioritizing their time. So basically, if only 2/3 are buying 1 to 2 games a year, just based on what we know, those 1 to 2 games are likely Call of Duty, Madden, or something of that ilk. Those super popular, more often than not, yearly franchises. And then the rest of their playtime either stems on free-to-play games like Fortnite, or games that have been around for years and years like Minecraft, or maybe even subscriptions. Now that part is a little bit frustrating just given the recent news with Xbox Game Pass, because as I've talked about before, the reason that I've championed Game Pass in the past is because of how consumer-friendly its price was. I mean, if you look at the game industry right now, they're kind of pricing fans out of the market right now. I mean, gaming has always been an expensive hobby at the end of the day, but we're now at the point where $600+ consoles are being normalized. There's $70 to $80 games, and that's not even considering paid DLC, which every AAA game seemingly has anymore. So there are a lot of people that don't want to pay those high prices, or they just can't. And that's kind of the beauty of something like Xbox Game Pass. It's a great way for people to play more games without necessarily breaking the bank, or at least that's what it used to be. But clearly, this is an issue for the game industry. I mean, I give Sony a hard time for their focus on live service a lot of times on this channel because that's really not what they're good at, and I think they should focus more on what they are good at. But, at the end of the day, the data tells us why Sony has poured so many resources into their own live service agenda. A large portion of gamers are, yes, prioritizing free-to-play. I mean, it is a lot easier to download a free-to-play game than to pony up $70+. And that's doubly the case for kids and teenagers who don't have their own job. They can just download a game instead of going to ask their mom and dad about, can I get this game that's very, very expensive? And when they do spend money on games, they want to pick a game that's going to last them for a long, long time, again, being a live service title. So this does highlight the impact that free-to-play and live service titles have had on the market, and that's definitely not a good thing for AAA, which ironically is kind of the opposite because AAA is actually increasing, which I'd say probably also doesn't help them out all that much. Now, at the same time, none of this is to say that the AAA game industry is doomed. I don't really believe that because 36% are still buying more than 4 games a year, which that's still a very large number at the end of the day. Now, in an ideal world, that number would increase and get closer to 50-50 considering AAA budgets keep rising, but I'd also argue that's where AAA studios needs to better manage their budgets and their development time. This idea that there's just an endless amount of customers that will increase year over year has proven to be false. It's just not realistic, and I don't think their model is sustainable. And if anything, what this data tells us is more and more people are gravitating towards cheaper options for various different reasons. Let me know what you all think about this, though. What do you think about the AAA game market right now? And do you think free-to-play and live service titles are a problem? Let me hear it in the comments below. Now, we do have 2 more things to talk about, and that's about Nintendo. Yes, Nintendo did reveal their mysterious short animation is, in fact, Pikmin, as was suspected. They were invisible in the original short because, similar to the mobile game, people can't see Pikmin with their naked eye. So that's officially part of the lore now, and I mean, it could be a sign of more to come. Now, some people are speculating that this is going to lead to a brand new game. I mean, Pikmin 4 was very successful for them a few years back, so, I mean, who knows? Maybe they could streamline a new entry. But honestly, that's not really what I'm expecting. I'd be surprised if a new Pikmin game were ready that soon. So my guess is that if anything, this could be the first of more animated Pikmin shorts, which, hey, I think that would be cool as well because I think their Pikmin shorts are pretty amazing. Now, the other big piece of news from them, though, comes from the fact that the Switch 2 has already sold a whopping 2.4 million units in the United States, which means that it's not only outpacing the previous Switch, but also the PlayStation 4, which was previously the fastest-selling console in the United States. So this is absolutely a fantastic start for the Switch 2, and so much so that the Switch 2 has actually offset the declining console market for 2025. Both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series have received a double-digit decline year over year because, I guess raising the price doesn't help after all. But according to Circana, the Switch 2 has been so successful that it's actually offsetting those declines. So that's pretty impressive. And the thing is that we're not even to the holiday period yet. The Switch 2 is going to absolutely soar this holiday period, and it's really going to hold some major records by the end of this year. So I'd say Nintendo was probably fairly happy by these early results, though at the same time, I still think that they need to fix some things up, most notably being their keycard situation. I'd like to see that get fixed up. So, we'll see what happens with all that, but yeah, the Switch 2 has definitely gotten off to a fast start. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.